Hi, I'm Lou Camerlengo, the president and co-founder of Five Star. For the past 2 decades, Five Star has designed and delivered hundreds of applications for organizations ranging from Fortune 500 companies to local workforce investment boards. And one of the things that we've learned in that time is that no matter how well designed an application is, its success is really based on users who are ready, willing, and able to use it. So in this webinar, I'm going to share some of our techniques and strategies that you can use to gain buy-in for a successful launch of your Salesforce or any major software application implementation. First, we will take the mysticism and fuzziness out of the discipline of change management. I will then provide practical and common sense principles, frameworks, and considerations for a successful launch. And finally, I'll share some best practices and lessons learned from Five Star's 23-year history implementing enterprise-level solutions. Most organizations face similar challenges when implementing a new platform or system. You're competing with other priorities for attention, dealing with a team who most likely is doing more with less, or worst of all, see this as just the newest of a series of initiatives that have delivered less than promised. So how do we address this? First, let's talk a little bit about change. In reality, most people experience change as a loss of control as they feel fairly control-oriented. Think about that from your own perspective. How did you feel the last time a major change was thrust upon you? You probably felt more in control when you could dictate or at least anticipate your future. That's because people establish specific expectations based on what can be dictated or anticipated. When perceived reality matches expectations, a sense of control is achieved and a form of balance is generated. When perceived reality does not match expectations, the feeling of control is lost, and people must adjust to the changes they were unprepared to face, which causes a feeling of loss of control. This results in anxiety and a general resistance to the change. So, change is considered major when it is perceived to be so by those affected. Major change is the result of significant disruption in established expectations, and major change occurs when people believe they've lost control over some important aspect of their lives or their environment. To put it another way, change breaks organizing structure, which causes disorganization, which creates confusion and frustration, which creates negative emotions and the valley of despair. An unending cycle of confusion, frustration, and negative emotions, which we have all experienced at one time or another. You feel a complete lack of control of a situation, and you just want to throw in the towel. So your job is to reduce, but not prohibit, negative emotions by providing an organizing structure throughout the change. The reason we don't want to prohibit negative emotions is to acknowledge they will exist. The key is having a mechanism in place to let your team express them so that you can address their concerns on an ongoing basis. So now that you have a basic understanding of how people experience change, I can outline some key steps you can take for a well-managed change initiative. A well-managed change initiative minimizes disruption to critical business operations, shortens the depth and duration of the valley of despair, creates pull in the organization for the change, intertwines the change into the critical path priorities of the organization, and finally, leverages the emotional wild card of individuals in the organization to a positive end. The model we created for managing change has these 5 components. When they are coordinated across your team and integrated into your timeline, you will see success. Let's quickly step through each one. Setting the strategy means there is a clear and agreed upon future vision for the change that is based on solid business rationale, and most importantly, the leadership team is way out in front promoting and leading the change. Nothing kills an initiative more quickly than lackluster leadership, or worse, leadership working to counter to the established change objectives. Once your strategy is set, it's critical to align your organization around it. First, you need to set the groundwork for your team to clearly understand and buy into the change. They need to be able to clearly envision themselves in the changed world, and most importantly in this phase, Have them actively involved in designing that world. Having a cross-sectional stakeholder committee is a best practice here. Next, establish a clear, seamless, and well-integrated plan to realistically transition to the change. This includes ensuring stakeholders' needs and points of views are known and well managed, and that the highest priority initiatives have the appropriate level of resources and roadblock clearing. Equipping and supporting your team is the next step. Inform them of the new and revised business processes, productivity improvements, and any organizational, team, and job structure changes, emphasizing any new opportunities for career paths and other benefits. Also make sure you have a plan for any process and systems training required, including point-of-work performance support tools to support new required processes and competencies. After leadership walking the walk, communication is the next most important factor in a successful change implementation. When building your communication plan, seek out and address the primary concerns of all affected stakeholders. And finally, have systems and scorecards in place to continuously measure effectiveness, reward team members for forward progress, and for collecting feedback to improve the process. To wrap things up, here are some of the lessons we have learned that hopefully will help you have a successful rollout. There will be blockers. You probably already know who they are. What's most helpful about blockers is that they are often voicing concerns that others have but may not feel comfortable sharing. Use that to your advantage. Don't punish doubters and cynics. Rather, sign them up to identify problems. These are some tips to help you build momentum for your rollout. Number 1, think big but start small and scale smart. Use pilots with enthusiastic early adopters to get quick wins. Make sure you advertise successes with testimonials, which are invaluable in gaining enterprise-wide buy-in. Please remember, it's natural for your team to be uneasy during a major change. Salesforce implementations bring their own unique challenges, so the quickest route to success is to streamline your sales and operational processes before you implement. Converting a flawed process to a new tool won't provide any value and will cause more frustration. Also, as I mentioned earlier, communication is key. When employees see that the leadership asks for their opinion, not for the sake of appearances, but with the intent to follow their recommendations, they will be more enthusiastic to adopt their new Salesforce org. Salesforce is a robust platform, and the tendency to include every feature all at once can leave your team overwhelmed. To increase adoption from the start, don't over-design your V1 rollout. To build a system that will make your users' lives easier, consider the following design tips. Aim for fewer clicks. Automate tasks by creating rules, building flows, and leveraging Salesforce Einstein AI. And lastly, make it easy for your team to access useful resources to facilitate processes. If you're already using Salesforce and seeing any of these happening, sporadic data entry, and negligent record keeping resulting in incomplete data, an empty progress bar meaning status updates are not happening in a timely manner, and just plain negative feedback, you have an adoption issue that needs to be addressed. And finally, I'll list a few lessons we've learned over the past 23 years. You can download these and other tips from this video on our website at www.5stardev.com/managingchange. I hope you found this video helpful in providing some insights into some tips that you can use to make your implementation a success. I'm happy to connect with you to discuss how 5-Star can support your Salesforce or other software development and implementation needs. Thanks for watching.